2 seasons ago on Oklahoma Gardening, we showed you how to construct this little cobblestone bubbling fountain. It's got these little square cobblestones that are placed on an expanded metal grid below here. We buried a 3-gallon bucket to house the pump and the reservoir for the water. It's worked out pretty well, except that we found that when the water is bubbling, sometimes it will run all the way over the surface of some of these rocks, and it will fall to the ground outside of the bucket. So we can sometimes pump our bucket dry that way. So one way we discovered to take care of that problem, we dug up the bucket and we replaced it with a wider tub like this one. So that helped contain the water that was running over the edge of those rocks a little bit better. So that's something you might think about if you're having trouble losing some of the water due to the fact that it runs over the outside edge of those rocks. Well, the little plants that we've planted around here have filled in very nice. The gold moneywort gives us some really good color, and the Ajuga, of course, over here, little ground cover in the mint family. You can see some of the little blue flowers here in the springtime. It's going to look really showy here pretty soon. Well, as we told you last fall when we were previewing the theme gardens that we were going to have for 2003, we decided to put in a direct seeded garden. This is just taking some packets of seed and sowing them directly into an area out here in our studio garden. This is a good way to save a lot of money. You don't have to pay as much for the seeds as you would for the plants. So we created a design. We wanted it to be aesthetically pleasing, but we've got sort of a triangular shaped bed, and we wanted to make it sort of decorative, so we divided the space up into these little areas. And since it's sort of an island bed, we've got the taller plants in the center, like the sunflowers and some of those other taller plants. But once we got the design put together, we started wondering how we were going to separate those different areas and figure out where the seed went. So we came up with this idea to mark the area off in a grid, and then we took sand to line out those little sections where the different plants would be. But it's really quite simple. You can still see some of the lines here where the grid was drawn, just to kind of transfer what we had drawn on the graph paper to the ground. And the sand, of course, shows up a lot better once it kind of dries out, and we can tell where to sow the seeds. Now, the seeds, when we sow them, we're going to broadcast them over the entire areas within the sand. We're not going to sow them in rows or anything like that. But we've got several different types of plants that are pretty easy to grow from seed. We've got phlox drumondii, different types of sunflowers, several different types of zinnias. There's a dark colored sunflower, purple zinnia. We've got some marigolds, 4 o'clocks, and several other things that we're going to grow in here. And this is a good way to save some money in the garden. You don't have to spend all that extra money on the plants. Just sow the seeds, and you'll have lots of cut flowers. And this is also a really good activity that your children could get involved with to create their own seeded garden. Well, we'll come back and give you an update later on to see how this garden turns out.